we are joined by a Premier League analyst, Sebastian Jones. Thank you so much, Sebastian, for joining us on In the Game.
Thank you for having me. Great to be back again.
Great to have you, and I would say compliments. A Happy New Year to you.
And to you as well. Thank you very much.
All right, let's talk about the Carabao Cup. Liverpool went into this game as clear favourites, no doubt about that. But Tottenham Hotspur, from nowhere, they came out on top. What do you think about those the key differences and the performances for both sides on the night?
Well, I think to start with, I think it was a pretty surprising result, really. You know, I don't think anyone could have seen Spurs grabbing the victory that they did do so. I think it's sort of an interesting approach from both sides in terms of how they lined up. Liverpool went pretty strong. Assuming that sort of shows Arne Slot's, I guess, his desire to win a trophy in his first season at Liverpool. So that was sort of quite interesting for me. In terms of Tottenham, they're through to, obviously, they're in the semi-final, and for Ange Postecoglou, he seems to have this sort of second season bounce where everywhere he goes, he always seems to win a trophy in his second season. And so obviously we are at the semi-final. So he'll want that, Spurs will want that, and they showed the quality. There wasn't too much quality on the show yesterday. There was a few chances. Spurs, as you mentioned, could have taken the lead if it not for offside, but in the end, they grabbed a late goal and they've got the momentum going into the second leg in a month's time.
Yes, a good time indeed. No one would have thought that Ange Postecoglou will have a glimpse of hope with that game at the Carabao Cup. But Sebastian, there was a disallowed goal, Solanke's goal, after that lengthy video assistant referee check. Yes, history was made with that video assistant referee check, but what do you make of that decision, and how big of a psychological impact could that have had on Tottenham Hotspur?
I think in the end, the right result was made. I think it was rightfully disallowed, the goal, but I do think it probably spurred them on to go a little bit more later on in the game, if that makes sense. They gave them the desire that, yes, they got a goal, but it was disallowed. So it gives them that hunger, that desire to go further, to make sure that they went on and grabbed a goal, which obviously stood, and they did do that in the end. In terms of the decision itself, I do think it was the right decision. Yes, it came, took a while for the sort of the VAR to come to a decision, but I think it was the correct one in the end. And ultimately, we saw the sort of history being made, as you mentioned a bit earlier on, in terms of the first ever in-stadium announcement in England by the referee, which is good to see, and hopefully we can see more of that going forward, both in the Carabao Cup and also in the Premier League as well.
Yes, history was made indeed. That announcement, the first time ever we are seeing that in English football. I think it should be something that the Premier League should, take an initiative they should take for video assistant referee analysis. But let's talk about what that means. What significance does that bring to football in England for the fact that these decisions are being announced?
I think it's good, especially for the fans in the stadium. Since VAR was introduced into England, there's always been this sort of, I guess, remiss in terms of fans that are actually in the ground, that they're not getting any information, that perhaps people watching online, people watching, on the television channels at home are hearing, because they get a bit of insight from the commentators, etc., that are watching the game, and they can see lines being drawn, for example, for offside calls. Whereas in the stadium, you just don't get that at all. You're almost sort of blind to what's going on. So I think it is good. I think it's definitely a stepping stone in the right direction in terms of whether the English FA decide to go with that. We've seen it in action. We could have seen it in action that before, in the Arsenal-Newcastle game, but it wasn't needed. So I think sort of the Carabao Cup have set a good precedent. It has obviously worked. Whether it would, adding it in the Premier League would add a bit more complications. There's so many games going on at one time. Obviously, last night we just had the one game. So whether having multiple games at the same time would cause a little bit of interference, perhaps, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not necessarily a VAR expert, but what I can say is it definitely worked, and it was definitely a good stepping stone in the right direction. And I think it's a good example of perhaps change being made in terms of England in the near future.
Yes, the Pigeonhole said that they had a commitment for transparency in the league. Now, do you think this will push transparency and maybe reduce confusion by fans if it's introduced into the English Premier League? Would it go a long way to do that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I agree. In terms of transparency for the fans in the stadium, which ultimately are the most important people. Yes, we've got fans watching on TV. Yes, we've got fans watching at home. But actually, it's people paying money that are in stadiums that need the most transparency, seeing as they are the ones in sort of the arena, in the stadiums. So I think, yes, bringing it into the league would bring a bit more transparency and would sort of give, I guess, the rightful power and ownership to the people in the ground that they understand what is happening and what is going on. So, yes, in answer to your question, I think it would absolutely bring transparency. And I think it's well-needed transparency as well, given the so many issues we've had over the years in England with VAR.
After that match, of course, on Wednesday, a lot of media outlets were looking for Mohamed Salah. Where was Mohamed Salah in that encounter? We saw Liverpool. They had chances, especially with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Darwin Núñez, of course, having to test Tottenham Hotspur's goalkeeper. But looking at individual play right now, was there any concern about how these players were trying to finish, their finishing in key moments? Or was it just not their night? You know, the forwards for Liverpool, was it not just their night in that Carabao Cup first leg?
Yeah, well, I think we can look at this from both points of view. You know, we can look at it in terms of a Liverpool attacking point of view, in terms of sort of options and goal threats. And yes, Liverpool did have the chances and they created them. We know the attacking intent that they go forward with. But also, we can look at it from a Tottenham Hotspur point of view, in terms of they had a Kinski in the net, and he was making his debut. You know, he only signed a couple of days before, and he stood up, you know, was put in to the starting lineup in a semi-final competition, and ultimately he stood tall, and any chances that sort of came his way, he blocked, he saved, he just denied anything going past him and his goal line. So yes, you know, Liverpool did have the chances, and ultimately probably with players such as you mentioned, sort of the quality that they do have, yes, you would probably back them doing better, but that's not the case, because actually the Tottenham goalkeeper, Kinski, has stood strong on his debut.
Yes, he did. It was a brilliant performance from him, because I saw after the match, he had to go, you know, get a hug from mom. What else can you get? A support from mom. It was a great performance from the Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper. He got accolades from Ange Postecoglou himself. And I think going forward with that performance, they can bring that to the English Premier League and maybe give a glimpse of hope to Ange's stay at the league.
Yeah, certainly so, and that will give them confidence, you know, taking the lead. Yes, it's only a 1-0 lead, but taking that lead into that first leg of the semi-final would do massive, particularly, you know, I said that they scored late, and having that late confidence has got to be great, not only going into the next leg next month, but as you said, also going into the league. You know, Tottenham haven't really performed to the levels that they are. They can perform at that we've seen in recent years, and Ange Postecoglou will be the first one to admit that, and he'll be the first one to admit that they do need to change. So this can definitely be used as some sort of momentum to spur them on. We know in the past few weeks we've had a couple of players out. Obviously, Bentancur went off injured yesterday, and you know, we hope that his recovery is pretty quick as can be. But you know, they've got to have this togetherness, and I think by getting this result yesterday brings this togetherness, brings this sort of momentum, and absolutely can help sort of charge them, push up that Premier League table, which is something they need to do. And last night against Liverpool was definitely a statement victory, and definitely a victory that can help them do that and push forward in the league.
All right, they always want to turn up when they face big sides in the league. What other way to announce yourself than for a team which is top in the table in the English Premier League? Sebastian Jones, you're still here with me, but I've got my sport journalists who have been joined by even at the early hours of the show. I've got Bemi Depo back with us, Popola. All right, thank you. Welcome back to the conversation. We have Sebastian Jones here with us all the way from the UK. Now let's talk about the Premier League right now. And West Ham are in the conversation. They have confirmed the appointment of Graham Potter as the new manager following the dismissal of Joan Lopetegui. Now, of course, Potter, the former Brighton and Hove Albion and Chelsea boss, he has signed a 2.5-year with the team and, of course, will be unveiled in London on Thursday today. Lopetegui, who took charge in July after being appointed in May, he was sacked on Wednesday following a poor run of form. Now, during his tenure, the Hammers secured Just 6 Premier League wins this season, leaving the club 14th on the table, 7 points above relegation zone. A 4-1 defeat to Manchester City last weekend marked West Ham's 9th loss in 20 games. The club also parted ways with Lopetegui's backroom staff. The entire staff are gone, showing the exit door. Let me begin with Baby Depo. This decision to bring in Graham Potter, a good one for West Ham? What do you think?
They've given the ex-coach the ample time. 9 losses in 20 games. It's not easy for any club owner or for any fan at any club level. And I think it's very important for them to change direction, and which they've done. But the problem is, I think this is the second coming, not actually at
Indeed.
At West Ham, but it's more or less like a second coming of a familiar name, Graham Potter. Who I wouldn't say he really failed at Chelsea, but Chelsea was a step too high for him. And I think this is his level, and I think he will do very well.
Wow.
At the club, West Ham. Yeah, I think he will do very well at the club.
Sam, do you think this is Graham Potter's level? The January transfer window will soon be open and we'll see a lot being done there. Do you think he will take advantage of the transfer window, Seb?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's coming at the right time. Obviously, he's got a few weeks now, as you said, until the window does close. And I think also, actually, the quality of the players that West Ham have at the club already is quite high. They just haven't been firing in the past few months while Lopetegui's been in charge. Yeah. So it's a good combination for Potter in that, yes, he's got time, in the January window to bring in players that perhaps he's worked with before, that know his strategy, that know his tactics, etc. But also, actually, they've got quality players at the club, and they just need someone to get them firing. And I absolutely think Potter is the man that perhaps Lopetegui wasn't.
Okay, with his precedence at Brighton and Hove Albion before he got caught by Chelsea, you think at the place where West Ham is right now, Graham would be the saviour for West Ham? Seb, I start with you.
Yes, yeah. Well, they need someone to come in and sort of rescue them, because it's just not been good enough so far this season, and it has had success, as you mentioned, at Brighton. Obviously, the less said about Chelsea, the better, I think. But in terms of Brighton and the other clubs he's been at as well, Swansea as well, he's almost gone there and sort of made a mark and actually improved the club. If you look at when he came in at both clubs versus when he left at both clubs, he actually improved them and year on year, and he made that difference. And West Ham need someone to come in and make a difference. Yes, sort of they are 14th, so it's not they're not in that relegation battle as of yet, but they were in a real danger had they perhaps not brought in Potter of slipping down into that sort of bottom 4, bottom 5, that fight for survival. And absolutely, like you said, Potter's coming in, and I think he's just going to drag them straight away from that and up towards sort of the higher end of, towards the top end of the table, and perhaps push for Europe like we've seen in recent years.
All right, I will take your word for it, and hoping that he gets a good run at West Ham. Let's talk about the FA Cup right now. We've got 3 fixtures to look ahead for that FA Cup third round fixture today. Previewing this game, Sheffield United against Cardiff City. Everton will take on Peterborough there, and we've got the likes of Fulham against Watford. Now there will be an interesting tie, Everton and Peterborough. That will be that game I'm looking at, because a father and son will be on parade in this encounter. The man they call Ashley Cole, he will be up against his son in that encounter. Ashley Young, I beg your pardon, he will be up against his son in the game between Everton and Peterborough there. So, maybe Depo, which of the games are you looking forward to? We have Sheffield up against Cardiff, yes. Fulham against Watford. The FA Cup third round is one exciting, review that we want to always look at, because this is where we see teams that are not doing so well in the English Premier League come up and then come with firecrackers in the FA Cup.
Yeah, definitely. If you would ask me, I think the game Watford against Fulham, correct, it promises to be a blockbuster. Watford always tries to come out and do better, especially when they face, EPL sides since they went down the drain, or since they went, to the championship. So for me, I think it comes to be a very exciting encounter. And not forgetting as well, Everton against Peterborough for me. I would love to see Ashley Young, the oldest player at Everton, Jurgen Young, ironically, play against his son as well. Peter Bro, and I can't wait to see what will happen. You know, these are games that makes, you know, history. These are historic games for me, and I can't wait to see, you know, the relationship both would share on the pitch and off it as well. It continues to be an exciting side. Believe you me, I think there's more to come. I think there will be a surprise today. There will be a surprise today. There will be a surprise today. I can see it somewhere.
All right, let's see Sheffield against Cardiff City. Seb, with the current form of Cardiff City in, of course, the championship side, do you think that they can pull up any surprise against Sheffield United today?
Yeah, well, obviously, Sheffield United coming into this one are definitely the dominant, sort of that they're at the higher end of the Championship table. In terms of Cardiff, they'll look to get a result. You know, only one win in the last 5 league games, so they'll be hoping to get some sort of result, and it would be a giant killing, really, given that sort of Cardiff are at that lower end of the Championship and Sheffield United are towards the top. So Cardiff sort of need something to spur them on and to help rescue their season a little bit, and an FA Cup run starting against Sheffield United is a perfect way to do that. So, yeah, Cardiff, you know, absolutely a result would do them the world of good, but actually probably Sheffield United are the ones that go into this one favourites. Having said that, Chris Wilder, the Sheffield United head coach, has already said that he's going to play a bit of a weakened squad, so maybe that is an advantage for Cardiff.
All right, we'll be waiting that they can take that advantage into this third round encounter. Thank you so much, Sebastian Jones, for joining us on In the Game. We appreciate your thoughts on the show.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you. All the best. Cheers.